What's up, Canada? Great Northern Discussions. I'm your host, Kevin Tucker. We're back with another episode and into the studio with the highly over-opinionated Jasmin Laine. And once again, a special thanks to our sponsor, Lone Star Directional of Great Northern Discussions. So, Jasmin, how does a woman, find herself a former broadcaster, seemingly at the height, maybe at the peak, small peak?
You would think nearing it on the upward trend.
Yeah, you were trending up.
Yeah,
and then you find yourself the queen of YouTube. How did all this go down?
Okay, well, that is way too vague of a question.
It's just super open. That's why I wanted to leave it. Now we have an hour and a half to answer that.
Okay, great. Oh gosh, I don't know. That is so. There's so much to unpack there because there's so many little steps that happened so many years before I took the plunge.
Yeah.
But I mean, quite frankly, I got so tired of self-censoring and so tired of not being able to say what I think. And I could not stand it anymore. And I needed to say what I thought. Mm-hmm. That's probably the best way to put it. And not because I think that I have some incredible values or insights that are, whoa, the next best thing. Yeah. But just because there were so many conversations that I had with people who were in private similar to exactly what I talk about, but public facing, people would never admit that stuff.
Right.
And to me, that is probably one of the biggest threats to democracy is when people stop feeling as though they have the right or the power to say what it is that they think and to say what they want, to criticize the way that you should, to hold people accountable the way that you should. And I kind of just decided one day, I'm like, I have nothing left to lose. There's nothing that of any meaning that anybody can take from me anymore. And I'm gonna do this. Yeah,
I'm going to take a swing. Mm-hmm. Well, and it was fresh after, because I know you'd spoken about it on a couple, other podcasts, and obviously you're gaining a big name for yourself. But you mentioned, you had received. I was just on with the Real Citizen boys, David Craig and Jeremy Prest, just starting to get the little bromance forming over there.
I love that for you.
Hey, boys need that.
Yeah, you do.
But yeah, they were mentioning the story, if you could tell it again, but David was actually handing you the award for like Leaders of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
What year was that?
So that was in 2024.
Holy shit.
Was that 20? Yeah, 2024.
Yeah, super recent.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, last summer. Almost a year ago to the date, actually. I was on stage in Banff with all of like the industry professionals, all of the CEOs, the VPs of, the CRTC who regulates media in Canada. And I'm on stage. They had a really beautiful little presentation. It's like the Leaders of Tomorrow award goes to Jasmin. He said my last name wrong, Laine. And I'm like, excuse me. I've been here longer than Patrick Laine from the Jets.
Patrick, yeah.
But that's fine. But yeah, and I went up on stage. I got that. It was really bizarre, honestly. I had worked in traditional media for 11 years, and I had kind of worked my whole career for that moment because I had a couple different goals in my career, and these are all kind of self-serving and self-indulgent, but I was like, I want to be on a billboard. Okay, I got that. I want to be, I want to be on a morning show. Okay, I got that. I want to win an award. And then I got that. And it was funny.
I'm out, Costanza. I'm out of here.
It wasn't quite like that.
No.
There was a lot of unfortunate things that happened behind the scenes, which I would love to talk about, but I just don't want to give them any light at this moment in time. I'm trying to move on with my life. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I had gotten that award from David Craig, funny enough, who was at the time the president of the Western Association of Broadcasters. Mm-hmm. And then they have a new president like every year. And so I had gotten that award from him, had an amazing time, being schmoozed around as you're the next best thing. Oh, we're going to nominate you for this award and that award. You're the next best thing. This girl's she's
head just
really
exploding.
And then literally I got back from Banff, and 5 days later I was called into an office and they were like, yeah, so you're not going to be on the morning show anymore. And I was like, huh? What? Because like other people who I knew, who I worked with, who had received that same award, received like massive pay increases, massive contracts, more holiday time, all this stuff. So that was certainly what I was expecting. Yeah, I never got a reason for why they wanted to move me. And the option that they gave me was certainly more of, we don't want to fire you because if we fire you, then we have to pay you. And so my option was either that I had to do something that I felt was very immoral, in terms of another show, and immoral in the sense of just like, I'm not in the business to screw anybody over. And so they kind of gave me that option of, you're done on this show for no reason. I know the reason why, because I'm not an idiot. But you're done on this show for no reason that we're going to tell you. And you have an option to remain employed by taking a significant pay decrease, which is crazy to me. And you're also going to have to screw over one of your friends by doing it. And that's railroading, by the way,
which is super common in that industry, right?
They give you an impossible option, and then they can at least say, well, no, she left. We tried. We gave her. It's like, no, like that's not. I'm not stupid. I'm tired of people thinking that I'm stupid. I'm not accepting this. I didn't have anything else to fall back on, though, mind you. Like, I literally didn't. I remember I got that news and I was just so gutted. But immediately, I actually recall saying in that meeting that I had with my manager who had nominated me for the award, who I just spent so many days with, schmoozing with all of these other high up industry people. And I remember as soon as he offered me what he did, I said, absolutely not. And he was like, well, at least think about it. Okay, absolutely not.
Okay.
So I ended up turning that down, and I immediately after that point just went all in onto YouTube and content creation of my own.
Had you already been kind of brainstorming that or kicking it around, or no?
I had started my YouTube about 3 months prior.
Oh, you did?
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But I didn't post very regularly, and I wasn't really talking about politics. And if I did, it definitely wasn't about Canada. But I would talk about, the body positivity movement and some silly things that were going on. Yeah. Or I'd talk about Charlie Kirk or things like that, but never actually Canadian politics, even though I had always really wanted to. I love politics. I have since I was very young.
Me too.
So,
me too. Yeah, I'm pretty pumped for us to be sitting here. I can't wait to tiptoe around and smash on some policy and things. But yeah, you had an employer at the time, so you're also kind of like, got to watch what you say.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing too that's really tricky with traditional media. And I find you don't quite realize the toll it takes on you, because everything that you do, like especially once you get to being a bigger role, if you're on air and you have a bigger show, I think it just in general, if you're on air, period, everything in your life, your free time, everything revolves around the job. That's it. And you don't, and you're like happy to do it, and it's an honor. And so you're happy to do it. You love your job, you love your life, but you don't quite realize just how consuming that is. And also like just this weird thing in the back of your mind where it's like, oh, I really want to do this. I really want to talk about this, but I can't because I'm representing the brand and it would make the brand look bad. So that's really tricky.
Oh, of course it would be tricky. It's funny. I have to think about that stuff even just here, even though I'm a little nobody at the moment, but I do have an employer.
Well, you're everything to me, sir.
Oh, thank you so much. Can't believe I flew you out there. How'd you like the jet?
Oh, wow. It was super great.
Learjet.
Yeah. Very, very nice.
It's like 4 minutes or something.
Yeah. Listen, I love it.
Quick flight.
Yeah. Bougie.
That's how we roll around here. Well, when you're looking at just getting into your YouTubing, were you thinking, like, I want to make money? Like, did you start going down that rabbit hole right away thinking I'm just going to take a swing and see where this goes?
I had no idea about the money aspect at all, actually, in the very beginning. I think that I knew this is something that I can do, but I didn't understand, obviously there's like really big people on YouTube who have made multi-millions of dollars off of it. So there's money there, but it was something I never really knew how to go about doing. I think more importantly to me was that I was finally unleashed and I could finally just say what I think. And I'm like, let's go.
Probably super liberating.
Yeah, like
right?
let's do this. Let's talk about some of these crazy things that I've done news stories on before where I wasn't allowed to give an opinion or it was frowned upon to give an opinion that I actually have a lot of opinions on. You know, let's talk about some of those stories that we were kind of nudged not to talk about that I actually really want to talk about.
Yeah.
And so that happened, and it was actually quite interesting because I had been so scared for the longest time to take that plunge. I thought it would like be the end of me. My career would be over. I am for sure blacklisted from mainstream media now, but that's fine because I don't want to work in mainstream media anyway.
Why
at
would
this
you
point in time?
Why would you be blacklisted just because you left, or
Because
there's other shit?
No, because I talk about politics.
Because you talk, right?
Yeah,
right.
about
Because
politics.
you're over opinionated.
Yes, and they don't like that.
No.
And so it would probably be viewed as a little risky. There's maybe some opportunity there. I mean, like Ben Mulrooney, as an example, has a show.
Yeah.
So there's probably some opportunity at some point in time, but also I have zero desire at this point. Like if I ever do decide to go back to the industry again one day, I could see that potentially happening. But it won't be for a number of years. Like
No.
I feel like I am living my life and I'm doing what I want. And I'm really happy. I'm really, really happy and in control for the first time in a really long time. And I'm sure people too who are even like small business owners or self-employed, like you feel that where it's like and I think I'm kind of bitter, obviously, because it's like I'm not bitter for getting let go. I'm just bitter, I suppose, at like the overall end result of how the world works. And, you know, when something like that happens to you and you get that opening or that eye-opening moment of like, whoa, I slaved for this company. I believed them when they promised me things, you know, I trusted them. It was an honor. I was so happy to be there. And like the fact, and this is just how the world works, obviously, but like the fact that, you know, all of those things would happen. And then all of a sudden you're done, bud. And that's it. And like, I was cut essentially. And because I was railroaded into quitting with an impossible offer, I was told like, okay, great. Like you have nothing. We're paying you out your vacation. That's it. Great. That was it. Like I had literally nothing.
It's a lonely place.
Yeah.
It's a kick in the nuts.
Yeah.
for
So
sure.
I decided to, I guess, try to make something at that point in time.
Yeah.
And that has gone surprisingly well.
Exceptionally well. You've got almost, if not 150,000 followers on
It's crazy.
subscribers on YouTube. And I know you were posting about it because you were obviously excited, but your rankings on Spotify, you were number 4 or 5.
I was 5, I think.
5
Yeah.
behind Joe Rogan. I mean, holy shit.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I don't even know if I'm still on the list right now.
Right. Yeah. Because it's like all the time.
Sorry. They shift like crazy.
Sure.
But I was in the top 10 for about a month at least.
Well, and that was election time.
Yeah.
Probably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy. Like, honestly, that's one thing. And I guess like you could say, yeah, you shot up to success really quickly. I have a hard time admitting that. I'm not a prideful person. I don't like pride. I don't know. I have a really hard time with that. I'm trying to work on it.
Like you're humble.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
and I don't like to be too excited about my own accomplishments. Cause like at the end of the day, I just like me being on this earth isn't about me. Me being on this earth is about everybody around me. And like, what can I do? How can I help? That's just kind of how I live my life.
Jasmin, you're actually a sweetheart. I thought you were such a hard ass. What is going on here?
I am very opinionated, but I do have a big heart.
Yeah, no, that's clear you do. Oh, I think, well, anyway, you're slaying it there. And we were talking about this earlier, the difference in, you've got you're a hot take girl, right? And so that's ever changing every single day. There's always something new in politics, and especially with the way things have gone here in the last 10.
Yep.
How can you not? Which is what I bitch about too. I just don't get to do it enough. So.
We got to do this more often.
No, that's right. So yes. So speaking of that, I mean, obviously you shot up during election time, or maybe gained more notoriety during that time. What the hell happened with the election? What do you think happened? What went down there?
People have asked me so many times, do you think the election was rigged? And my answer is no. If I believed that the election was rigged, I would not live in this country. my answer for why I think the election is rigged is more in the sense of just manipulation, misleading headlines, and mass psychosis more than anything. And it's also, and the Liberals played this up very well. They very much knew their target audience, and they
They're
were
good
willing, they were willing to completely dehumanize them and manipulate them into believing the narrative that they wanted. And I think that was probably the biggest issue that we had, was just this mass psyop. And, there's so many things in terms of the regulatory bodies in Canada as well that most Canadians don't know about. The bills and laws that have been passed, the power that has been granted to organizations like the CRTC, where they, like, algorithms on social media in Canada are not the same as they are in other countries. Our algorithms they prioritize government-approved messaging. They prioritize all of those things that people like myself are trying to speak out against. And people don't realize that, and it sounds crazy. It sounds like, oh, you're just a crazy conspiracy theorist. What are you talking about?
That's their favorite.
Yeah, but no, it's true, though. I say this because I know this to be a fact, that there are many things that are done in terms of social media, and obviously as well in terrestrial media, that benefit the government at the time. And I mean, honestly, couldn't have been more eye-opening too when Mark Carney is, we're going to keep the CBC and we're going to give them $150 million more dollars. Wow, what a great way to say, you guys better not screw this up for me. And people think too, like, mainstream media is dying, and so it doesn't matter if they give all this money to the CBC because, nobody's watching them. Except that people are. People are watching them. It's not as high every day as some other people, like other independent creators.
Yeah.
But people are watching them. That is the news. That is the news. And the news has also done an incredible job of completely smearing anybody who is an independent for going against the norm, to the point where, yes, there are other outlets out there that I would argue, as far as I've seen as of late, have posted factually correct things. But those are, you're kind of told, don't trust them. They're radicals. They're radicals. They're far right.
Oh, it's always far right.
Why aren't we talking about the far left here? Just
because they're part of the machine.
Yeah, exactly.
They drive it.
And so there's many people who will say, oh, well, nobody watches it. And it's like, no, but people do. And their message does resonate. And when, I think too, you had a bit of an interesting moment in about the 1990s. Mainstream media has always had a bit of a bias, but in the 90s, it had really shifted to much more of a liberal bias. Yeah. Before, they were maybe center-right, center-left, kind of depending on the story. They were still pushing it on some things, but in the 1990s, they had really shifted that. And then in the year that Trudeau was running against Harper had said that he was going to be defunding the CBC, essentially. He was going to cut back on their funding, and Trudeau promised more funding for the CBC. So what are you going to do then? If you're the CBC and you don't want to lose your job, well, we're going to make sure that these people win. And year after year, in a Liberal government, the amounts of taxpayer dollars going to the CBC have been incredibly high.
Yeah, it's... and I want to talk about that, maybe some of the messaging. Like, do you think that Pierre's message... We're fans of Pierre. You obviously got to interview him, and I want to talk about that too. But when I look back, just like a season of sports, you do your look back, and I look back at the campaign just like they all would have done in their war rooms. What could Pierre have done differently? He still got over 8 million votes. He gained 25 seats. I did look at the CBC one, like maybe he needed to, instead of defunding, or like, because maybe part of the film part of that, like the shows, Schitt's Creek, Littlest Hobo, Beachcombers, all that stuff. Like maybe they needed to feel some more protection and love versus like, here, this media arm, we're going to revamp, or we're going to help you become profitable or something. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, that's a tricky one. Solely because I am fully on board with defunding the CBC.
Yeah, me too.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And even Pierre had made it quite clear. And here's the part that people, I don't understand why you can't critically think about this. let's just factor in during the 2021 era, how many businesses had to close their doors because they did not make money. And I don't recall the government saying, we're going to pay you $150 million to keep your doors open.
Right.
And then they say CBC it's a part of Canada's DNA. No, it isn't. It's a broadcasting organization. Do they help people in rural areas sometimes? Maybe. I grew up rurally. I don't know anybody outside of my parents, actually, who watch CBC.
Oh, yeah, mine as well.
But we have Starlink. People have cell phone services. It's not like we're living in 2005 anymore.
No.
It has expanded a lot. The CBC is not actually the lifeline the way that it once was. And the most important thing to remember here is that if you're cutting their funding, that doesn't mean that they're going to crumble. That just means they have to be a business.
They got to figure it out themselves.
And that's what every business should do.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially something like that. That's the thing. You're getting all of these government subsidies, and you would actually crumble if it weren't for them. Why is that? Why does your business model suck so bad that you can't afford to do what you're doing if it wasn't
not what
for
we do
these?
here. We take your money, taxpayer money.
It's crazy though. And I'm fully on board with it. And so, there was some people saying, I think the one thing in terms of the CBC, and I absolutely understand why he did it. I think this is a long battle though, and it's going to take a long time for people to have their eyes open to it. And in terms of that messaging of defunding the CBC, I don't think that needed to change at all. Even if that maybe could have cost him the election, I think, do I wish that he had won? Absolutely. But I think that it is far more valuable to play the long game, to point out how unbelievably infiltrated, corrupt, and biased this organization is. Because, you can sit there and say, oh, well, we have the Hogue report. It confirmed that there's foreign interference in our elections from China, from Iran, from India, from Russia. Those were the top 4. Actually, I don't think Russia was the top 4. Russia was after that list, but whatever.
Yeah.
But you have this report coming out. Yes, we know that this all exists, but why isn't anybody talking about how infiltrated our actual media companies are? Because, sure, you may have China interfering in the election with WeChats or something like that. You may have India interfering with an election. You may have all of that. But what about the daily interference that we have in our democracy thanks to these government-funded subsidies these government subsidized, whatever, organizations.
Sure. Yeah.
And people don't talk about that nearly enough. And even in Pierre's platform, he had confirmed we're going to keep Radio-Canada because that makes sense. And it does provide a service that you can't find elsewhere. And in terms for the CBC, we're going to cut their funding because guess what? We're struggling. We're struggling so much right now. Our debt is so high.
Oh, it's insane.
That's an easy $1 billion for a company, by the way, that has all of the pieces in place to be profitable. It's not like they are actually an arm of the government. They have their own business models. They have their own advisors. They have everything in place. So you're telling me that a smaller company than the CBC is able to survive without $1.3 billion a year, but the CBC can't. How does that make sense? That sounds like a massive waste of money to me. And I don't disagree with him going hard on that at all. And I think more people are probably going to come around to that as well. The bias from them is unreal. And people will say oh, well, Jasmin, your bias. Yeah, I tell you that though. I tell you my bias, you can filter everything I say through it. That's the big difference. Whereas they're claiming to give you the real, honest, full story, and they aren't. That's manipulating.
They never do.
That's terrible to do.
Well, and they've been talking, conservatives have been talking about it for years. This goes back to Harper, how we said I can't get podium time to give the good news or brag about our accomplishments because you wouldn't get the podium, and it's only gotten worse since Trudeau got in there. More money thrown at them, and even John Barlow was in here with me. He said flat out after, I just said thank you so much for doing this. I'm obviously grateful getting an MP on, and or municipal or MLA, whoever of that nature. But he even said, we need you guys. We need your platforms because they don't assist us. They don't help us. It's so, when you mentioned rigged before, it is rigged against conservatism hard.
Yeah, it is. Well, of course it is, though. That's the establishment, right? And I think that's something, too, that people need to recognize. And this isn't even party specific. Like, to me, it isn't. Like, this is just some fundamentals. Oh, I'm so sorry I said that word.
Fundamentals.
We're going to fundamentally change. Canada will lead.
Oh, you're running for politics.
Yikes.
Here we go.
But to me, that stuff is really just the fundamentals. And it's really crazy to have people who are opposing the other side, and sometimes not even opposing it through and through, like saying, yes, that's true. Here's the other part of the story, though, that they're missing out on. Here's the other thing that they're not talking about their own team. And I think that it really goes to show you the dishonesty more than anything, because it's like you have these organizations who they just want to stay in power, period.
Yeah.
You know, and even the last 32 years have been under, out of the last 32 years, only 9 of them have been under a conservative government. So what does that signal to you? That conservatives are really the problem, or that the establishment is really, really powerful and really has their tentacles in absolutely everything in order to make you feel that way? Because it's pretty crazy to me to still be blaming the conservatives for XYZ. But the liberals are so perfect. Well, that's weird, though, because the liberals have actually been in power for many, many, like even in the last decade. It's been the liberals in power. So what problem do you have with the conservatives? Really?
Well, scared, you know, just following the comments online, when people would say things about Pierre, we are so different, conservatives and liberals, or left and right. It's so hard for me to fathom people saying, Pierre's coming for your rights, women's rights. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that has got to be one of the biggest wedge issues that has never actually been an issue that liberals always use when they're losing. But I think even that too, it goes to show the big disconnect of too many Canadians think that the Conservative Party of Canada is like the Republican Party of the USA.
It's true.
And it's not at all. The Conservative Party of Canada is more liberal than the Liberal Party is these days.
It's true.
Like, it's a very arguably center-left party at this point in time. And I think that that's because they've had to adapt to these radical ideologies that are taking over the world. And they've had to move a little bit. And I don't believe that that's fake either. I think that things in the world are different and things are changing and people have different ideas on how to progress. And there's different things we have to deal with nowadays. But if anything, the Conservative Party to me is very similar to like a libertarian party. Through.
No question.
I would consider myself a libertarian.
Yeah, I say that too.
But that means that I'm a far right radical extremist, and Vladimir Putin's coming to my birthday.
Oh, you're
party.
a nutbag.
Yeah,
I can't believe you. You're super racist.
Yeah,
right?
I know. What can I say? Crazy.
Well,
I wanted to say though, because you had kind of asked about the Conservative Party messaging, and so I do kind of wish that they had perhaps done a little bit more. In terms of actually having ministers go on CBC, go on CTV. I understand why they didn't, but you have to also... You have to
play the game.
Yeah, and when you have a CBC panel and 4 out of 5 people on the panel are very liberal.
Yes, they are every time.
They're funded by the liberals, or sometimes 5 out of 5 people are. And, they're NDP. No, you're not. You're still a far left liberal. That's what that has turned into in this country, obviously.
Yeah.
The NDP is not the party for the working people. In fact, the votes would suggest that the Conservatives are.
7 seats. Yeah.
Yeah. So like literally you just had the decimation of the NDP. I actually think that was probably one of the biggest reasons why they lost.
For sure.
Was more so, yes, there was absolutely a lot of propaganda. I don't care if you don't like that word. You think it's like a crazy, you're just being dramatic. Go research propaganda and tell me if you don't see some correlations there. But like we had a lot of propaganda, and then we also had the complete decimation of the NDP.
Yeah,
like there was a few ridings even where there wasn't an NDP candidate at all. Was that intentional? Possibly. Was that also intentional from the Greens? Possibly. I don't know. I can speculate.
Sure, looked like Singh tanked it on purpose, and
yeah, really bizarre. Really, really bizarre.
I don't know how that guy sleeps at night. Honestly,
yeah.
I really don't.
I would say the one thing, like if I could have the best possible advice for the Conservative Party for whatever it's worth, it would really just be that they need to stop playing defense and they need to start playing offense.
To go on offense.
Because when you're almost waiting and ready to defend against the narratives that you know are going to be created, I just think that that's a terrible position to be in because you never have the upper hand.
No, it's true.
And there's so many incredible women, incredible people in the Conservative Party who just you need to stop playing defense. And if something comes up, you need to squash that right away. And you need to start, you need to be the narrative creator. You need to be the truth teller. You can't be wasting your time in question period defending against this ridiculous thing. You need to point out how ridiculous it is and play offense.
Yeah, and squash it immediately.
Yeah. So I think that could have maybe been somewhere where they could have done a little bit better. And I have high hopes, hopefully, that they will.
Double hope.
Yeah.
Well, and even looking back to the lead up, because they like to talk about the implosion of such a massive lead that Pierre had, and now they like to look and laugh. Ha ha! Look at the lead you had. Look at the lead you had.
It's funny because he had that lead. Like when you see the end result, it's like, yeah, that lead didn't go anywhere.
Yeah,
actually,
it actually stayed the same.
Yeah. What happened is that ended up being very successful, and we had the decimation of the Greens and the NDP, and then we also had a lot of media psychosis going on there.
Oh, there was a lot. Well, and he still got over 8 million votes, and I like that he is touting that right now too. Carney somehow got his 8.5, but elbows up.
Elbows up for China.
Yeah, that whole, oh man. I like the videos of the people in line doing the elbows up and the chicken dance. Up.
It's so embarrassing.
They got played.
But again, that is a psyop. Like that is actually a psychological operation. That's something I've studied a lot. I know that some of those words, they seem very conspiratorial, and they seem conspiratorial because that's what the government did to shut people up, is they called them names like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. And if there's anything I've learned about being a conspiracy theorist, it's that give me a few months and I'm right.
It always works out that way.
Yeah,
always turns out that way.
We do a lot of research. There's obviously some whack job theories out there, duh. But also you have a brain. You are able to kind of discern those things. But you're not a conspiracy theorist because you just don't believe what everybody on this side of the table wants you to believe. You're a free thinker, and you're one of the few people who still has critical thinking.
Yeah,
which is so lacking.
Well, it makes it easy for them to say you're a conspiracy theorist because now more so than ever, there are so many conspiracy theories, and then
but why do you have that? Right? Things like that develop when there's a lack of information and when you have a government doing shady stuff. When people are being transparent and honest, you don't have that.
No, that's right.
Those things come when people are not. When they are misusing, they are manipulating you, they're doing things that don't make sense. And it's something that I say a lot where, if somebody has to explain to me why something makes sense, it's probably because it doesn't make sense. Yeah. And so even that, you want to think about, these far right radicals and the rise of them. Why is there a rise of them? Let's stop thinking about...
Yeah, ask the question.
Yeah, let's stop thinking about symptoms. Let's think about the cause. What is the cause? Well, the cause is that our deficit is out of control. The cause is that our hospital wait times are insane. We can't afford houses. 25% of Canadians are food insecure right now, with that number ever so convenient getting higher the younger you are.
Yep.
Good
crime,
job.
Crime on the rise.
Crime is high. People can't find jobs. People can't get into daycares. The reason for all of those things is not because people are just these whack jobs. It's because they are so underprivileged to actually be living in the reality that's been created for them by the party who claims to want to save them and help them, but has made their life consistently worse. Yeah. And so to me, for the most part, and this is a generalization, but I tend to view most people who are really loyal liberals, it's either you are very privileged and you came from a really good family, and that's fantastic, and I hope you use that to the best of your advantage. But you're either very privileged that you don't have to feel the reality of this stuff at this point, or you are just completely indoctrinized. And there's actually been a lot of studies on indoctrination too. On average, in an actual population of a country, if if a population undergoes a mass indoctrination through the use of media psyops, as an example, I know I'm using a lot of words that are like immediate.
Well, that's it's all right wing.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Terms.
But again, it's like those terms were created so that people like me would shut up.
That's right.
So I'm gonna use them because that's what they're called. And
Sure.
like I'm not gonna apologize for that.
No, and you shouldn't. Well, speaking of shutting you up, you mentioned earlier like the CRTC, and then it made me think of the online harms. I guess that's C11.
C63.
C63 is online harms. C11 is the
Online
streaming act.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are your thoughts? Do you think these they're going to start to come after people like you or like me or anybody who opposes government? What do you think is going to happen here?
I hope that's not the case. I would say I take people at their word. And there's a lot of comments that have been made that are past the point of me. And that's one thing too is, I read a lot. I think a lot before I come to my opinions. Like there's a lot of things I'd love to say right now that I just haven't had the time to sit with me long enough yet that I'll maybe say in a month or now or a month from now.
You're not just grabbing your phone and running to the can and putting it out there.
Well, that does happen sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
But I
you're thinking it through.
Yeah. And I think that Mark Carney and Stephen Guilbeault, who is the new heritage minister or something of Canada's identity,
heritage.
Whatever the heck that title is.
That's Guilbeault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he was actually the one who was first in charge of, if I'm not mistaken, it was C11.
He was.
Yes.
He was.
And then also Bill C63, because that was a very similar role that he had in the Trudeau government. Bill C63 was also one that what ended up becoming Bill C63 started from him, essentially.
Yes. Yeah, that's correct.
And I'm very terrified of that. I think it's
too.
very scary when you start to have public figures, one, try to smear and immediately cast a cloud of suspicion and doubt on anybody opposing what they tell you to think, which is just so insane that it's one of those things where like once you see it, once you know, it's so obvious to you when it happens. But like if you're in the position where you don't see it, where you don't know, where you just take it at face value and believe it, you're going to you won't even question, why do I think this? Why are they telling me this?
Yeah.
And so that I want people to question absolutely everything. Question everything that I say. Think about it deeply.
Well, it's perfect.
You know?
As you should. We're in the world where you can get your information. All you got to do is dig. I mean, I say it to the other side all the time. Do your digging. I did mine.
Just go past the third page of Google and you'll probably figure out the real answer there.
The rabbit hole pages.
Yes.
Past page 4.
Not the pages that are all orchestrated by CRTC, Bill C11.
Yeah.
Where it primarily pushes out Toronto Sun, CBC, CTV. Or not Toronto Sun, sorry, Toronto Star.
Toronto Star. Well, Stephen Guilbeault scares the shit out of me. I mean, a lot of those guys do, but he, and I do a lot of the energy stuff in here, and he was behind C59 as well, which was the green washing. We call it green hushing. That's his brainchild. So it's almost like he wants to suppress everybody's opinions on everything, not just energy, but our voices. Like now they have it. There's like 7 parts. You probably know more than I do, but they've got it based on 7.
I'm actually not familiar
parts.
with
You're
that
not?
bill.
Okay,
no, I
so
haven't.
I mean, I've done very surface level stuff, but it's based on obviously hate and children and protecting.
Oh, sorry, Bill C63 you're talking about?
Sorry, 63. Yeah.
63.
Yeah.
That one I'm very familiar with. Yes.
Okay,
Sorry. I thought you were talking about 59.
I did. I definitely flipped around there.
Thank you. It's
few
fine.
bills.
We got it.
We nailed it. Yeah. So anyway, I just feel like it's just because you see what's happening over in the UK. There's people getting arrested for online comments. I don't know what those comments are.
Things warning about anti-Semitism,
Right?
some things that are perhaps racist, things about get out of my country, things like that. People are getting arrested for. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking scary.
It's interesting though, because Keir Starmer of the UK recently came out and said that immigration is out of control. We need to get these people out of here. They need to have our values. I was completely shocked by him taking that stance. It was so polar opposite to the things that his government has pushed forth. Having said that, he is in an election year. So of course he's going to want to get reelected. And if that's where the world is turning, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But actually that's another thing too with Mark Carney talking about how, we need to be closer to the UK.
I know.
And I'm like, why though?
Why?
Their economy is worse off in many sectors
They're
than
crumbling.
ours. Their streets are horrific. There are terrible things happening to their people. People are leaving the country.
Yeah.
They have these crazy policies, absolute two-tier policing system, which we do also have here in Canada, whether or not you want to admit it. The facts are the facts. Why do you want to be closer to them? They're not doing good. Do you want to know who we should probably be closer to? The U.S., perhaps?
No question.
That would make sense.
But
Why
no,
are you trying to
Trump.
partner with somebody who's doing worse than you? That sounds like the worst game of dodgeball ever.
Well, he just gave in to them too right away. He's given them everything they want for the elbows up crowd.
Yeah.
I can't stand it. It's a scary time. Trying to give Carney the benefit of the doubt, which we have to do. We have no choice.
Well, we wanted Pierre Poilievre to win, yes.
So bad.
But we also want Mark Carney to be successful.
Of course.
So yeah, of course.
Want him to succeed. We don't want Canada to flounder.
Yeah.
But when you talk about separation, right, or seceding from Canada, just for people out there, this isn't because Mark Carney won.
No.
This is a deep rooted. This goes all the way back to like 1905.
Yeah,
Western
many issues.
alienation. Yeah. So what do you think about all the talk about separation, and how much are you familiar with? And I'm super versed, so
yeah, I believe
I know the
that.
whole history.
We are here.
What do you think? Yeah.
I don't want it to happen. It makes me sad to think of that. I love this province. Having said that, I completely understand why people are in that direction. I don't think that they're radicals. I don't think that they're a fringe minority. I think they are real people who have been screaming out for help for many years and been ignored. And that is what happens. Every single, every revolution, every terrorist organization, probably gonna have to bleep out that word. Every single time that something like that has happened in the world, it stems from one thing and one thing only, and that is bad government.
Yes.
And yes, of course, obviously people who are going and pushing in all of these radical things and turning Afghanistan into what it is today, as an example, or turning Syria into what it is today. Those aren't good things, but there's reasons why people do things. And I think it would be very beneficial for, I think it would be so cool in our curriculum, honestly. Like, if we really want to save the world, we need to start educating kids on that. We need to start educating kids on cults and manipulation and psyops and all of those things.
Not drag queen story time?
No. Though those could be entertaining. I don't know.
Could be funny.
Yeah, those girls have great outfits, so I'll give them that. But like, there's so many things that people should actually be aware of. Gosh, honestly, even if you think about like different types of governments, like communism, Marxism, socialism, how did those start? And educate people on those. It's a part of history.
Yeah,
but
just learn about it.
But we don't educate people on those. And then you have people in the streets, you're a fascist. It's like, you don't even know, you didn't even know what that word was 3 years ago.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Why are you even saying, like, it's just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
So yeah, no, I definitely understand why Alberta feels the way that it does. I also, more importantly, want to say how funny it is that these same people who seem to be totally fine with smearing Danielle Smith and smearing everybody from Alberta in the mud when they do something that they don't like, are also now smearing them because they don't want them to leave.
Oh yeah.
So
it's
can you
always
make up
been,
your mind?
It's such a love-hate. Yeah, it's been like a terrible marriage. It really does. It does go super deep. I mean, because Alberta and Saskatchewan, the history of it, Alberta and Saskatchewan were supposed to be, it was proposed we could be a province, right? And so Sir Frederick Haltane, he was the premier in the Northwest Territories. He suggested, before Canada became Canada in 1867, Canada, New Brunswick, Quebec, Ontario, of course, where all the votes are. And that was Canada. And then in 1905, they talked about bringing the West in. And this Sir Frederick Haltane suggested, hey, why don't we make them one province? And we'll call it Buffalo. And at the time, he thought it would be good, and Saskatchewan was kind of the economic driver at the time until we discovered oil in 1914. But then Sir Wilfrid Laurier didn't like that. It was about power and control. People can look it up. It literally was about control over the West, and that is where the terms came from, the Laurentian elites and Western alienation. And now fast forward, there's all kinds of issues driving it from equalization payments and Quebec receiving more. And it's not about us not receiving the money, but it is about paying taxes into a system that other provinces and then blocking pipelines.
That's what I was going to say.
And then that's where it goes. It's not about, we don't care about the money.
Yeah.
It's just,
we care about the control. You have.
And the main thing for me is, and you're Manitoba. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you feel watching the election, but every time we watch the election, it starts on the East Coast. You watch this red wave till Central Ontario, and it's called because there's 154 seats between those two. Mm-hmm. So we need to start looking at or revisiting Confederation, perhaps, the seats. Mm-hmm. We only have 37 in Alberta. PI has 4. They have 180,000 people. It's a deep. There's a lot of layers in the whole separation thing. How are people in like Manitoba? Because we take Manitoba.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd want to.
No,
not the inner city. Outside of that, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Manitoba is an interesting place because it's predominantly NDP.
It is.
There's a lot of reasons for that that I won't get into per se because I don't want to be insensitive. But
sure.
I would say the inner city is definitely very NDP, very liberal. And it's
well, they always are.
And it's like, oh, well, I'm a liberal because I'm a good person and I'm a good person because I'm a liberal. That's the mentality.
Yeah.
That's the mentality.
It's elitist.
Yeah, that's very much it, which is crazy because it's like you look around and you see how much people are suffering and people are not happy and there's no jobs in our downtown core ever since the pandemic. It is almost non-existent. It's so sad what's happened to our province. And people always say, you live in Manitoba. I'm like, I love Manitoba. Manitoba is my home. Like we have so many beautiful people there. There's so much there. The culture there is so rich. Like it is so freaking cool to just walk around and the things that you see, the food you get to eat. Like I love that province, but it's also not the same as it once was. And it's become somewhere that's not fun. And right? it's very divided as well. It's quite unreal. But I would say Manitoba is, southern Manitoba, pretty well entirely blue. But then it's like the city core.
The city, yeah. It's like an urban-rural divide.
Yeah. And so it's really interesting when you kind of factor all of that in. And so you should take Manitoba if you're taking Southern for sure. Yeah, that'd be good. You also have access to another state then, right?
Well,
so
that's what it's about. Yeah.
You brought up a good point though, in that the United States, as an example, sure, they are under federal rule by Donald Trump and the Republicans. Yes, there's plenty of Republican states. There's plenty of Democratic states, very similar to Canada. Though I would argue at this point in time, how many conservative premiers do we have? 3, I think.
Houston. Oh, he stepped down.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. So Ford, obviously, Danielle. Wahib.
Hold on, we're
NDP.
Googling it.
Yeah, can you check that for us, Victor? There you go. First pull up. You got to be on the ball. You weren't napping, were you?
Okay. So we got Danielle Smith.
Yeah.
Oh, this is outdated.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna say 3.
Okay.
Fact check me if that's wrong. It might be more than that, but it's not very many.
Because Houston did step down.
Yeah.
Right?
He did. I think.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, he did.
We're gonna get double fact checked.
Yikes. Misinformation.
Misinformation. You're a conspiracy theorist. Conservative premiers. Oh, we should know this, but it's okay. Hey, we're human.
That's why
we're not just poodles and superstars here.
Well, speak for yourself, sir.
NDP. Okay, I got the list here.
Okay.
Rob Lance, PEI.
Okay. Is that blue?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It says that. Current premiers. I better double check that too.
Na, 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 na,
Put on
na,
cue the Jeopardy tunes. Okay, we already obviously know about Doug Ford. Scott Moe, that's Saskatchewan
Doug Ford
Party.
Doesn't count.
No, Tim Houston. So he didn't.
I thought he did step down.
How do I know? He's listed here. This is up
Maybe
to date.
he did step down, not yet.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
He's not officially out.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to give him the nod. We nailed it. We're batting 1,000.
7? What?
It's okay. I got the list here. No, we just have Danielle, Tim, and then I think that PEI one was wrong. PEI. No, he is. Rob Lance. That's the 3. Other one. Yeah, it's 3.
Wow.
Don't know anything about Rob Lance, actually.
Me neither. But he does have a name like he should be in Game of Thrones. Sir Robert Lance.
Your Grace.
Wow, all that work just to find out I was right.
Yeah.
No.
Jeez. Nailing it out of the park.
But yeah, like there's like the way that things are ruled in Canada though is really interesting. In the United States, it's really cool to see how their government works in comparison because yes, again, they have that federal rule, but then their governors, their state governors and stuff have so much power. There's so many federal rules that are, this is what we're doing, but it'll change. It varies by state. There's so many, when it comes to taxes, varies by state, similar to Canada, but they're all pretty close by. But like the way that and that makes sense to me. It's like you have such a large land mass. It makes a lot of sense that your premiers would have a lot of power in the country of which they were, or in the province of which they were voted into.
Yeah.
And we don't have that. There's some things that are very much provincial, sure, but there's a lot of, like, everything comes from the top down still. Like, you know, it's not like they can just go and do whatever they want because they're a premier or because it's under the provincial or municipal governments. There's a lot of things that still need approval and whatever. And there's a lot of, and it's just really sad, honestly.
It is sad. Yeah.
Even Manitoba's economy as a whole is really sad to me. If you go and look at like the different Alberta payments, essentially, like Manitoba is one of those ones where if it wasn't for Alberta, we'd be in the negatives, which is crazy because like we have a massive mass of land. We have a lot of mines. We have hydroelectricity.
Yeah. There's a lot going on there.
But we just can't utilize it.
Just can't utilize it, yeah.
And also it probably didn't help that Harper sold like the biggest lithium deposit to China before he left. But at that time, nobody really knew what lithium was going to turn into.
And no one knew, well, except for China.
Yeah, China did.
They were ahead.
That's why they jumped on that. But even that mine, though, like that landmass, at least to my knowledge, is not, it's not like they're actively mining there. They just own it. But it sucks because we could have been mining.
Well,
there.
it would just, we would never get it built anyway.
Yeah, it would have got shut down due to environmental policies,
or
for sure.
Spend $1 million in regulatory and then shut her down after 5 years.
That's how we roll. I wanted to talk a little bit more because we kind of like went over it and then didn't continue.
Yes.
But Bill C-63.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to go back there too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
Please go.
We're on the same page.
Please go.
You know, there's one thing that I've certainly noticed with this government, and that is that whenever there is anything going on, they will always, the language that they use is so very important to pay attention to. It's so important and it so easily goes overused. Let's think about this even like, oh, safe injection sites. Safe injection sites.
Yeah, safe. Yep.
Safe consumption sites. You know, oh, well, this is going to be good for the planet. Oh, this is all really good. We're protecting children. Online harms. But the thing, though, too, is they very much bank on the fact that most Canadians will never take the time to go through those bills. And so most Canadians would be shocked to learn that in the Online Harms Act, which was proposed and then it was shot down with prorogation, but it's been noted that they will be bringing it back.
They'll be bringing it back, yeah.
And actually, even this, I did an episode about this a few days ago, but even Mark Carney had recently said that in terms of combating anti-Semitism and threats and harassment, that his government was going to produce like new legislation to make it a criminal offense. And I'm like, it already is. So what do you mean? Like to harass somebody, to threaten somebody is
that's already an
already
offense.
a criminal offense. So you want to bring a new legislation for that. Well, that doesn't check out. And you know that. These people are very smart and they know that. So what is that doing instead? Oh, it sounds to me like similar to the Online Harms Act, which is protecting children, you know, which the entirety of that bill, you could be paid up to $20,000 if you reported somebody who might commit an offense, which is crazy. You had to give, if you were charged, and it's all up to another judicial body as well, more bureaucracy. Terrible idea, without a doubt. And new bureaucracy, new judicial party doing this that doesn't get voted in, that is appointed. And I always thought that liberals hated technocrats because they sure like to complain about Elon Musk, but they seem to be quite silent on those involved in their own government. Mark Carney.
Well, they love their bureaucracy. That's what they built it on, right?
But
like
again,
40%
you know,
more.
You want to sit there and tell me that I'm some radical extremist because I'm talking about these things. Why don't you go and do the research and see what happens to countries that have had similar steps taken over time? Why does your government want to take those steps in the first place?
It's eerie.
It's horrible.
It's eerie the way that they're heading, and for people to not be, like you said, they should be looking into this and be wary of where we're going.
And but also too, it's like I feel like the Liberals did such a good job of alienating and completely ostracizing an entire group of people who were looking into this, because now you have young people who aren't taught any of these things in school, and who are more than anything taught that conservatives are bad. And if you so much as even start looking into the things that conservatives are talking about, that means you're bad.
That means you're
that
bad,
means
yeah.
you're going to be ostracized.
Easier to come after you. It's
Like,
all about control.
It's really messed up. It's really messed up. But what I will tell you on a positive note is I used to be one of those people who was really afraid, and I'm not anymore. And I noticed the second I started speaking up about some of these things that, again, it's not like I go on random rants about nonsense.
Yeah,
I'm
not
literally,
spouting off.
I'm talking about the news. I'm reading through government legislation and talking about it. Like that's,
Yeah.
but as soon as I started actually doing that, the amount of people that I had no idea in my life who started thanking me privately was shocking.
I bet.
It was unbelievable. Like the amount I used to listen to you on the radio. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy you're doing this.
Well, that's
like,
great.
This is incredible. I actually just before flying out here, I met a young woman named Nicole in a Michael's craft store, and she had come over to me and she was like, "I'm so excited to I can't believe you're Jasmin Laine. I was just watching you today. Like this is so crazy." And I gave her a big hug. And
you're a celeb now.
I'm not. Don't ever. Call
Well,
me
I
that
know,
again.
I know you don't want me to say that.
I'm a normal person whose life has not adapted at all. That's true. But so
Yeah.
and she said, she's like, I'm just so happy that you're doing what you're doing. I'm such a big fan. Like my whole household, we watch you all the time. And you're so grounded and you're telling the truth. And I was like, yeah,
That's good to hear.
yeah.
Well, you know what?
Like,
I have nowhere near your following, but I do get that quite a bit too. Obviously, I do focus a lot on energy stuff, but people thank me and say, I can't say things like you, or I get too upset, and we need your voice, and that does help to keep a person going, right?
well, and you also too, I started posting and ghosting. That was a big one. You just don't read the comments ever. There's a lot.
That'd be hard.
There's a lot of mean people in the
hard
comments.
to not go there.
Yeah. I've learned in the comment section that I have fake lips, which I don't. So that's cool. And that I have a lot of plastic surgery, which I don't. So
Grifter? Do you get grifter?
constantly.
I
Yeah.
get grifter
which
all
always
the
makes me
time.
laugh.
Yeah,
Honestly, the best thing to say to you're a grifter is like, cool, what does that mean?
Yeah, I have no idea.
And why
I
is
actually looked it up.
I had to too. Why is it that you only get called a grifter in the conservative side of things? Because you're using your democratic right by criticizing and asking questions and looking into your country.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So now we're trying to shame people for being democratic.
How dare you dig?
Crazy.
How dare you try to uncover the truth?
Well, they told us this, and so that's true. It is absurd.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, this is funny. Okay, wait.
is
Grifter
absurd.
definition.
Oh, he brought it up.
A
Hey,
person
Victor's on it.
who engages in partly or small scale swindling. Oh,
Oh,
I
a
can't read. Thank
swindler.
you. What is it? Petty? Petty or small scale swindling.
Oh,
But
we're
even that-
swindlers.
How crazy is that to
I
think
like that.
about, though? Like to insult people because they're talking about a perfectly legal political party that is democratically elected, that democratically exists,
Mm-hmm.
and they're calling you names because you support that party. Think about that.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It is insane. I like to dig into that file too, or the person, see if it's a bot or not. Obviously, if it's a bot, I don't reply. But just thinking about this, if they actually do come after our speech online,
I think they will.
And let's say conservative, like, do you think they would go after like Shameless Elle?
Yes.
Like she's got 1 million followers.
Yeah.
You think they actually will?
Depends. Because she posts a lot of...
I mean, I'm just thinking about
Yeah.
what we post and what we
Yeah.
say. Like there's no swearing. It's not racist. Like, what could they possibly come
Well,
just
I mean,
against the government? Or
As
what do you
an
think?
example, I mean, I talk a lot about immigration and more importantly, how much I feel as though we failed our immigrants.
Sure.
Truly, because I think that's one side. Everybody can agree that, yes, the mass immigration to temporarily spike our GDP ratios. Very common tactic used in countries literally since the beginning of time.
Yep.
To try to mask the fact that you're failing. But everybody knows that. Most people know that, at least. Something everybody can complain about. But the one thing I don't think gets enough attention is how the lie that we are selling people who come to this country for a promise that doesn't exist. And I think that is horrific. And I think that even that school of thought is probably one that you could probably branch out and get more people on the left thinking about too.
It's true. I had someone comment back to me on a shameless L. I comment on her sometimes, but I try to kill with facts. I keep it cordial. And I said, when we start hearing more immigrants complain that there is too much immigration, we might have a problem. And one guy, and I think he was like a comedian in the States, he was like, no, immigrants have been doing this since the beginning of time. So no, you're wrong.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm like, well, I am hearing it, though, from immigrants themselves saying this is a problem.
You know, this is a totally personal one-off story. It's not like I've investigated this at all, but I have a friend who's from Iran, and she moved here about 6 years ago, and she moved here to escape from Iranian culture.
Yeah.
Because she didn't want to live like that anymore. She wanted to go to school and make this amazing career for herself. I'm not saying that people in Iran in particular can't do those things, but it's certainly harder as a woman.
Yeah.
Much more frowned upon. And she didn't want to just be married off to somebody random. She loved fashion. She wanted to express herself that way. She was tired of being shamed for all these things, and she just wanted a better life.
Yeah.
And so she moved to Canada. Lovely girl, and wow, is it ever fascinating to pick her brain on things.
Oh, I can imagine.
But even she was telling me, I just saw her about a month ago, and I was asking her about, there was something in the news at the time, I can't recall all of the details of it, but something that had to do with Iran and Canada, and I think it had to do with like foreign interference or something like that. And I had asked her, like, well, what do you think about like the immigration that we have here now, compared to when you first moved here? Even like, have you noticed anything different? And I remember her being so gutted by it, because she was like, there is nothing worse to me than leaving because I wanted to just not live under that culture anymore, coming here and experiencing exactly what I wanted for a number of years and like doing really well, to now there's other Iranians who live in my community who like yell at me when I'm not wearing like a hijab outside.
Yeah.
And she's like, and it's really sad. And I wish that it hadn't come that way, because, I left
that
because I didn't want that anymore. And then I came here, and now that is also coming here. And of course there's so many different layers in terms of immigration and culture and how all of that is adapted and absorbed. But, as an example though, like me sharing that story could be hate speech.
Right.
If you want to go off of the UK as an example, it certainly would be. The one thing that I do think could be helpful is would probably be Donald Trump, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. I think he'd be good for that stuff.
Mark Carney has spoken a lot about getting rid of the, what did he call it? He did this in his campaign trail more than once. And so I'm like, this is something where I'm paying attention to it now, because I'm not chalking this up to I'm being dramatic or I'm misunderstanding. I'm listening to what you're saying now. But he had called it like, that it was polluting the air. The social media from the United States was polluting the air in Canada with misogyny and all of these big words that have no meaning anymore because you have used them to death. And what a damn shame to the actual cases of that people don't even think twice about now. Like, if you called somebody an Isterphobe 10 years ago, people would believe you, and it meant something, and you acted a certain way because you didn't want to be called that.
Yeah.
And that was a part of society judging you,
And of course he used polluting the air.
Yeah, funny enough.
Net zero mark.
But so I am curious to know how that goes. Will he end up banning X? Maybe. One thing too that a lot of people aren't as familiar with is the CRTC has actually been having hearings. They're over now, but those took place early last week. I don't know.
They were having hearings
about
with
not with government, but it was like committee hearings. At Parliament to discuss things, and it was really interesting to hear them at the same time. Because it's annoying as all hell to actually have to watch those committee hearings. It just takes forever.
Boring.
They make it intentionally frustrating to use.
So that you shut off.
I swear they do. But like, it was very interesting because I did watch a little bit of it to hear some of these people talking about independent media, but also kind of
like in a negative way. Or
Yes and no.
Okay.
Talking about how, oh, well, the landscape has changed and that's great and it's fine and blah, blah, blah. But then also simultaneously having this underlying message of we need to make sure that true and real journalism is protected and funded so that we can prop it up. So talking again about, well, we're the true and real journalists, even though we're missing complete chapters of our stories. Even though, even though what we said there was actually really misleading, as a perfect example, this took place in the States, but Donald Trump, when he was with the South African president, prime minister, I don't know what it's called there.
President, I think.
Yeah, and he was showing about what was happening to white South Afrikaners and
farmers,
and that's been going on forever. Lauren Southern was canceled because of doing a documentary about that, and it's true. That's true. That has been going on.
Well, and they all tried to smash Trump.
It's
for bringing
terrible.
it up.
Yeah. And then they said, oh, these baseless claims. These are not baseless claims.
They're actual.
How dare you say that? This is real. And this, you could talk to anybody. And actually in Canada, there's a lot of people from South Africa here. I know the province that I live in, there's a lot of South Africans.
Is that right?
Oh, it's the coolest accent to hear when you're out and about. It's like, oh, cool. I want to sit closer to this.
Sounds so exotic.
I just want to sit closer to this person because he's fun to listen to. I don't actually care what he's saying. It's just neat. Yeah, like if you talk to any of them, there's a lot. It's very scary. It's very scary.
Yeah.
Like Johannesburg, even in the side of the inside of the inner cities there, it's very scary.
Yeah, I've only heard it. I have no idea.
It's crazy, man. It's very crazy.
So do you think that their mission is to, squash? You think it's to squash?
Yeah, I would say
independent,
so.
Unless you're funded and regulated.
Yeah. And that's one thing too, that even like Canadian content creators, we have a hard time with that because we're all like YouTube, it's crazy to think about actually. So when they brought in Bill C-18, was that the one where they had to pay? I think it was
Google and Meta that they had to pay.
I think that was Bill C-18.
That could be another Victor.
Let's see.
Yeah, what was that
Online
bill?
News Act. Okay, yeah.
Online News, C-18?
Okay, yeah.
Good, because Google actually did pay.
Yeah.
They've paid $100 million?
Yeah.
This year.
And also all of the, it's so crazy. Oh my gosh. I need to go off and then I have to use the bathroom. But
That's fine.
I had a whole coffee already.
Yeah, fair.
So
we'll wrap it up soon.
This is really fascinating to me because, so Google, they introduced that bill. They say, oh, it's to protect Canadian content creators and to ensure that big businesses are paying them for their work, which on the outside, if you're a victim and you live in that world, you would think, yeah, we want them to pay us. Here's the thing. They already do. My entire income is from AdSense on YouTube. My entire income is from advertisements that come off of videos that I put out there that resonate with people who watch them. That is how I'm funded. I'm already being paid.
I don't want your money.
No, exactly.
Or controlled.
And so it's crazy to me. Yes, Canadians don't make money on Instagram or TikTok. And that is also due to Canadian government legislation. So they literally, by all accounts, this is oversimplified, but here's one takeaway from it is that it really does appear that the government said, we want all the control and we want all the money and we're going to choose who gets it. So this was another thing that happened during the election cycle is Mark Carney had said, we're going to fund CBC another $150 million, which he did end up approving through a governor general.
While House wasn't sitting.
Yeah, crazy. That's not legal, by the way, at all. You can look into it. They did it, so I'm sure there's a loophole, but
they would.
On paper, that's actually not legal. So there's probably something more to it. But they also started administering the funds from that Google payment. And I don't think that was necessarily done intentionally. That's the thing too. It's tricky because we don't know as the public, we don't know. And that's why we ask questions. And that's why hopefully we have a transparent enough government who will tell us, which we don't.
Yeah. And it was only paid out to a small number of.
Yeah. So even like
outlets.
Us independents, I didn't get any money. I don't know anybody who got money, but I know that CBC did. I know CTV did on top of what they already get. I know that
on top
that, Globe and Mail did. I know that I presume
there was some
they
French,
did.
channel.
And, like all of those people, most of which already qualify for subsidies, most of which are already taking them. They all ended up during the election campaign getting another, $20,000, $1 million.
Taken over. And now they can really blast that propaganda out there.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not at all insinuating that the time frame of that was intentional. I'm of the belief that, or of the knowledge, I should say, that these things do take time. So like they would have, that date for when it was going to be paid out was likely confirmed months and months in advance.
Yeah,
but the timing of it is just interesting to me,
it is,
nonetheless.
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah, right? And so it's just like, wow, of course that happened. But I'm not insinuating that that was intentional. Like I said, I think that likely got approved way beforehand. But it's just so crazy to me. And so I think that that's probably it, is that they're going to not... That's the thing, though, too, is because with the CRTC and with the regulations and the power that they do have the ability to manipulate algorithms. In fact, who was it who had said this? I cannot recall for the life of me right now. There's articles written about this, though, but where essentially, and so this had taken place in 2023, where Stephen Guilbeault was a part of this meeting, and there was somebody else as well, where they had essentially said that they wanted the CRTC, they wanted like the regulating body, there's a couple different ones, but CRTC is the biggest one, that they wanted them to have the power to highlight and focus on certain stories and essentially manipulate. I actually think they use the word manipulate algorithms, right, to benefit a certain story. And we have seen that play out. And I think that that's how that will happen. Do I think that we will get completely decimated? No, I think what they're probably going to do is they're going to go after your money first.
They want to control it and get your money. Yeah.
So they're going to go after your money first.
Of course, more government all the time.
Yeah. And that's the thing too that's really crazy. It's like, no, actually, you know what? If I'm an independent and I'm hurting because I'm not working my butt off and getting this done, that's my cross to bear. Yeah. That's not yours, it's the government. You don't need to collect money from these people. And that was the other thing too. Had it not been for Google signing on to agree to Bill C-18, to agree to that, we wouldn't have YouTube in Canada.
I wanted to go back to, I did want to go back to your interview with Pierre, because obviously super jealous, but happy.
I'm jealous of me too, because I can't even believe that happened.
It is awesome. I've tried for a long time, and even being a little peon, I just keep trying. I'd love to get him on, but just tell me about the experience, because I think it's a big deal.
You know, it's so interesting. There were so many conservatives as well being like, oh, you had to all your questions were approved. That was like a really common narrative around the time of the election. And I definitely told them the vibe that I wanted to go to. Like, I was like, here's my general idea for this interview. Would I have loved to have done one that was a lot more in depth and a lot more, a lot longer? Sure.
Of course.
I didn't have the time for that, though. So I had to kind of be like, okay, well, here's
I'm
where
sure he
going.
Gave you what his time was. And
well, like and two, he had done a radio show, a press conference, and a podcast before me. And so it was running a little bit late. So even like I had probably 50 something questions, different directions that I was thinking of going in, that we couldn't do.
Yeah, you couldn't get to.
So then, we went from having about 45 minutes to like 30 minutes. And I'm like, well, we're obviously going to chat a little bit before and after. I'd like to get a photo. 25 minutes. What can I do in this time frame?
Real crunch. Yeah.
But same here. I had been trying to get an interview for like 7 months. Yeah. And the way that all happened was so insane. Because like I'm a one-man show. I have one camera. I have 2 microphones that I hate setting up the second one for. And so I had pretty much told them like, I don't have the capacity to do all of this, but I'd really love to have him on my platform. And I think that would be incredible. And they were like, not a problem. Like, don't worry, we got you covered.
They did?
So
did they ask you like for your metrics, or they just do their own search?
I imagine they just did their own
know.
search.
Oh, they could Google you and
I can't remember. I actually think there was something where they had asked me to send like an actual report to them, like when you're asking. And so in that includes some metrics and whatnot as well. But it was pretty incredible. I literally remember
where was it? Where was it?
Toronto.
It was in Toronto.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But I remember it was a Saturday at 10 p.m. my time, and I got a text from his communications director. and she said, we're on. And then she called me like right after and said, can you be in Toronto on Monday? And I was like,
you're like,
yep.
oh, fuck yeah.
I'll book a flight right now. So I did that, flew to Toronto the next day.
Amazing.
Which was just really wild. But yeah, his team was like so unbelievably accommodating. One thing that I thought was really, really awesome, I don't know how else to describe that, is I've been a conservative pretty well my whole life. Like I said earlier, you know, I'd consider myself to be more of a libertarian, but conservative in Canadian politics.
Sure.
And I remember when he came into the room, and it was him and Anna, and I had asked for Anna to be there actually, because part of the reason why I wanted to do it was to debunk a lot of the misconceptions.
Right.
And I know that there was a lot coming from women, and I've heard Anna speak before. I've followed her on her own platforms.
She's so good.
Yeah, and I'm a really big fan of hers. And so I just thought, like, yeah, it'd be really great to have both of you. And they were super receptive to that. Obviously, she's touring with him.
Yeah, and they were doing everything together anyway. Yeah. Sure.
Which some people loved, some people hated. Personally, I didn't look into it that much. But so
yeah. So were you shitting your pants?
No.
Like nervous? You weren't.
No.
You weren't.
No.
You've been doing this a long time.
You know, I have this thing where I'll always be nervous getting somewhere, but as soon as I'm there, it switches. I'm okay.
Yeah, you're just like go time.
Yeah, like so I was nervous the morning leading up to it. I was really excited the morning leading up to it. But it was like as soon as I got into the room and I was there with his team, A-okay. Like, and his team was awesome. Like they were really, really cool people.
Were they? Okay.
When I got to hang out with them for a lot longer than planned because he ended up running late, we found out. So, so we were all just kind of chit-chatting about our lives and whatnot, and they were really kind. But I remember as soon as Poilievre came into the room, he said, I've met you a few times before, right? And I was like, yeah, I saw you a couple weeks ago because he was in Winnipeg, and he had actually recognized me, which was crazy to me, and I wasn't expecting that. There's a lot of other MPs that I have in my network now who I know have watched my show, who I've interviewed or people even, there's some where I'll be like, hey, I heard this going around, can you clear this up for me? And they're pretty receptive to that. But I was just very surprised to have him do that. And also too, it was like in front of, there was like, you know, CPAC and Global and CTV and all their camera crews inside of, it's like a media B-roll shoot. So there will be general public there from like, who were invited by whoever owns the venue that it was at.
Right.
And so I had gotten the invite to go there through Pierre's communications team as media, which I was really happy to do. And then funny enough, the restaurant that it was at is actually owned by an old dear friend of mine because I used to live down the block. So I used to go there all the time. Yeah. But I was pretty surprised though, like all the other film crews are going. And as soon as he saw me, he leaned over and shook my hand right away, which I was just like, oh, that's nice.
That's
Thanks.
super cool.
So I'd said, yeah, I met you like 2 weeks ago when you were in Winnipeg. And he says, no, but we met another time before then, didn't we? And I was like,
how are you remembering
wow.
this?
Yeah, we sure did. The first time I met him was, I guess, coming up on 2 years ago now. And it was at a Pierre Poilievre rally in Winnipeg.
A rally. Yeah.
And
had your big sponge finger on it.
And I was one of the 300 people in line to get a picture with him and to meet him because he had the time to do that back then. Yeah. And it wasn't during an election campaign where you're flying all over the place.
All over the place.
But so I was one of the couple hundred people in line to meet him. And I remember we chatted for a good while. I was still working in traditional media at the time, and we were talking about media and we were talking about censorship and stuff like that. And I was telling him how I had really wanted to go independent, but that I was kind of scared.
You were scared.
And,
no shit.
And he had told me at that point in time, like, you know, you need to do what feels right, basically.
And he remembered that.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
I know. And so that actually really caught me off guard as much as it did when he recognized me and shook my hand, which I think is the funniest thing ever. And so many of my friends have clipped it and they're like, wow, Jasmin, your real personality showed up here. Cause like he goes and says, how's your podcast doing? And my response is like, insane. Like
tripping on the marbles flying out of your mouth.
Awkward. What I wanted to do was use an expletive, but that wasn't appropriate. His son was in his arms. I would never. So it was just it was just really crazy to me that he actually remembered that from almost 2 years ago now, because like, you know, he met hundreds of people that night and he was doing that all the time.
That's all he
And
did.
he's
He
met
was known for that. Yeah.
thousands of people since. And I'm like, that is insane that you remembered that. Like
Crazy.
Who else would remember that? Like that's crazy.
He's got like a photographic memory, or you really made an impression, right?
I don't know how.
Yeah.
Like it's just me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was really special and really cool and really nice. And another thing, I'm gonna get sappy here.
Do it.
The one thing about him and Anna that I think is really cool, and I've only been to a handful of weddings like this, but they like walk into a room and you can just feel the love.
The love, yeah.
And I really admire that. And that's that's weird for a politician, I think. And also too, a lot of politicians don't necessarily do things with their wives. Justin Trudeau had his wife around for quite a while.
She was, yeah.
But I don't know what it was, but it's like they were just together and like so in tune, so in sync. And you could really just feel that love and respect and partnership. And I'm a sappy little angel, and so I love seeing stuff like that.
Well, they seem super genuine, and yeah, he seems like. Obviously we're fans, but still, I must have been an amazing experience for you to get that in.
It was very cool. Stay tuned because there will be a longer one coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was pretty happy with it for the time that we did have, and more than anything, I was really honored with just how. I don't know how easy his team was to work with and how accommodating they were
that's good.
For me. Because I'm like, I don't have the gear for this. And they're like, it's okay. Like, don't worry.
We got you.
Like, we want you to do this. You want to do this.
And you're like, can I get a different suit or dress? Can you guys?
Do I get a budget? No.
Yeah. Makeup room.
So that was really kind. But yeah, there was a lot of people. This one always kind of makes me laugh too. Like a lot of people who are like, you're a plant. You come out of nowhere and suddenly you're interviewing Lisa Raitt and you're interviewing Pierre Poilievre. Like you're a total plant.
Oh yeah, I came out of nowhere.
I'm like, well, I've actually been doing this for a very long time. I just started YouTube recently. That's true.
Yes, but you could dig a little further.
Yeah, but no, I've been around for a while, and I'm happy that you have only recently heard of me. But no, not a plant, just a gal who says what I think on the internet.
Slugging away over Opinionated.
Yeah, and that's if anything too, I think it's like that's why it's so important to just like reach for the stars. And see what happens. And even I have a lot of people who ask me sometimes, like, well, how do you get the interviews that you do? Because I've had some pretty cool people on my show.
Yeah.
And my answer is like, well, it's a part of my schedule. Every Friday, I reach out to people who are completely out of my league.
Yes,
and
you have to do that.
If even 1% of them says yes, that's a huge win.
If you get the odd yes, I'm like, what? Really? Yeah, that's great.
A huge, huge win.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy that you accepted my chasing of you over the last little while, trying to get you in here. But what is next for Jasmin Laine? Can you give us anything? Where do you see yourself headed?
Well, there is a new network that's starting that I will give you brief details of. I'm in talks about that with them for that. So there's that.
Jeez, just small, just a little nugget there. Amazing.
But as a whole, I mean, no, I love doing what I'm doing right now, and I would love to expand that more.
Of course.
I just don't even know where to start, so that's kind of tricky. But I don't plan on going anywhere. Like, so that's another thing too. So many people are like, well, the Conservatives lost, so just shut up already.
It never
and I'm
stops.
like, no, like this is our country. This is my home. This is my passion. These are my people. Like I'm not going, I don't care who wins or loses. There's still going to be issues. And, even if the Conservative Party had won, I'd still be talking about things. They're just because I like them and I voted for them doesn't mean that they aren't going to do things that I'm not going to agree with or that might disappoint me.
Everybody's free game.
Yeah. Like this isn't Tinder. You're not trying to find a soulmate. You're trying to find somebody who's ideally going to do the best job with what you believe the best route is in your country. And there's always going to be things that aren't 100% there. And we need to talk about that always, because if we stop talking about it, if we are silenced, if we censor ourselves, if we shut up like everybody would like us to, then what happens?
We need it. You're right. We need your voice. We need all independent voices, and any voice should all be welcome. So I love what you're doing. Keep up the good work. Obviously, we're going to stay in touch, and then hopefully we'll do it again.
You're taking me out for lunch, right?
Oh, we're eating lunch. No question. Wherever you want. Within reason.
McDonald's?
Arby's. They still have Arby's. Liquid
But you would
meat.
like us to.
We need it.
Thank you so much.
Our voice. We need all, and any voice should all be welcome.